This is a presentation on subtracting fractions with unlike denominators by Mathematically Marcia. Just like with adding fractions, we cannot subtract fractions unless the denominators are the same. So our first step is to get a common denominator. So look at your denominators. We have a 4 and a 2. And the smallest number that 4 and 2 will both go into is 4. Now your common denominator can never be any larger than your largest denominator, but it could be the largest denominator. So now 4 times 1 equals 4. So we multiply this numerator by 1, and we get 3. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So we multiply that numerator by 2, and we get 2. Now that we have a common denominator, we're ready to subtract. And 3 minus 2 equals 1. And we keep that common denominator. So 1 over 4. Okay, once again, we need a common denominator. The smallest number that 3 and 4 will both go into is 12. So now we need to multiply 3 by 4 to get 12, which means I also do 2 times 4, which is 8. And that's how I find my equivalent fraction with the common denominator. And then 4 has to be multiplied by 3 to get 12. So we also do 1 times 3, which is 3. Now that I have the common denominators, I can subtract. 8 minus 3 is 5, and then my common denominator is 12. So 5 over 12, or 5/12. Okay, once again, we will start by finding the common denominator. Smallest number 8 and 2 both go into is 8. And then this first fraction, 8 times 1 is 8. So 5 times 1 is 5. Notice the denominator didn't change, so the numerator doesn't need to change. For the second fraction, to get 8, we have to do 2 times 4. So I also multiply the numerator by 4. To get equivalent fractions, you have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And then 1 times 4 is 4. Now we're ready to subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1 over 8. Again, make sure you keep that common denominator when you subtract. Okay, once again, we need a common denominator. And this would be a good problem to review how to find least common multiple. So your factors of 8 are 2 times 4, then 2 times 2. So 8, you have 2 times 2 times 2. And then 6, we have 2 times 3. And then for least common multiple, you find your pairs. And we cross off 1. So we multiply the pairs, or 1 for each pair, and everything else that didn't get crossed off. So we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3 is 24. Now, most of these you may be able to look at and kind of figure out in your head what the least common multiple is, but if you can't, then you can go through this process to figure it out. So for this problem, our least common multiple, our denominator, as we just figured out, is 24. And so we have to, the first fraction, 8 would have to be multiplied by 3, which means I also multiply my numerator by 3. So that gives me 15 over 24. And then 6 would have to be multiplied by 4. So I multiply this numerator by 4, which gives me 4. Now 15 minus 4 is 11. And then of course again we keep that common denominator. So 11 over 24. Okay, on this one, my common denominator is going to be 12, because 6 will go into 12, which means I get to use one of the denominators I have. So 12 times 1 equals 12, which means I multiplied this numerator by 1, and that gives me 5. 6 times 2 is 12, so we multiply this numerator by 2, and that gives me 2. Now that we have a common denominator, we're ready to subtract. So 5 minus 2 is 3. Again, keep that common denominator. And 3 over 12 has a common factor of 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Always reduce if you can. Okay, 5 and 4 have no common factors. So anytime you have denominators with no common factors, you know to get the common denominator, you're just going to have to multiply them together. So our common denominator here will be 20. And then of course to get 20, I do 5 times 4. So we do 2 times 4 to get 8. And to get 20 in the second fraction, I have to do 4 times 5. So I do 1 times 5, which is 5. Let's put our subtraction sign. Now we can just subtract the numerators. 8 minus 5 is 3. Keep that common denominator. And check to make sure it can't be reduced, which it cannot. So 3 over 20 is my final answer. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button below and share your comments with us. Also, if you have questions or requests for future videos, you can share that in the comment section as well. And subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching.